Hello, how you doing? It's MrDoTheMath, and today we're going to talk about parabolas. Parabolas, right? All right. So, like we discussed before, parabolas are quadratic functions, and parabolas they look like this, right? So you have positive ones and negative ones, right? And they concave up like a cup. You create a minimum, right? Right? When it concaves down like a frown, you have a maximum, right? In order to decide whether you have a maximum or a minimum, you look at your first term. So parabolas derive from quadratics. So it's ax squared plus bx plus c, right? It's the quadratic equation. When the a term is positive, it's a minimum. When an a term is negative, you create a max, and your parabola is upside down. Okay? In order to find, and then we also have what we call an axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry, I will not spell this right. The axis of symmetry is basically the middle of the parabola, right? And the axis of symmetry, this particular term is actually the x value of the vertex. This is the vertex. This is the vertex, right? The axis of symmetry creates this vertical line down the middle of the vertex, right? And because it's symmetrical, that means that every point is going to be equidistant from the other one in the opposite direction, right? That means that also when you're plotting points, the y values will be the same. The y values repeat every time because of this axis of symmetry, right? They're equal on both sides, right? We're good with that? All right, so what we need to do then is we need to figure out what the vertex is. And so in order to find the vertex, we use the vertex formula, right? To find the x of the vertex, we use this formula, negative b over 2a. B comes from here, that's the second term, and A comes from the first term, okay? And then once we find the x of the vertex, we substitute the x of the vertex into the whole equation, which is why we look at it like this, negative b over 2a, right? So this represents the x of the vertex, and you substitute this x value in to this whole thing, all right? So let's look at one. All right, let's look at areans, right? Somebody said, no, this is Axis. He said y equals negative x squared minus 6x minus 10, right? That's the one. That's one of we had a problem with, right? Yeah. All right. So what we want to first do is first you want to identify a, b, and c. All right. In this particular problem, a is what? Negative 1. B is what? And c is what? Negative 10. That's A, B, and C. You're going to take A and B and you're going to put it here. Alright? So B is going to be negative 6. So it's negative 6, which is actually positive 6. And it's going to be 2 times negative 1. Okay? When you simplify that, you'll get 6 over negative 2, which gives you negative 3. So the x of the vertex is negative 3. We all good so far? Yeah. Right? So now from here, you're going to take this negative 3, you're going to substitute it into for every x here. So now y is going to equal, and this represents the vertex y. Y equals negative 3 squared, right? Minus 6 times negative 3 minus 10, right? Negative 3 squared is 9, but this minus sign comes down too, so it's going to be negative 9. And then you got negative 6 times negative 3. Plus 18, right? Minus 10, right? So negative 9 plus 18 is 9. Minus 10, negative 1. So the y equals negative 1. So your vertex is negative 3, negative 1, right? The axis of symmetry is negative 3. That's the AOS, right? And because the A is negative, you have a maximum, right? the maximum value, which means either how high your vertex goes and stops, or how low your vertex goes, which would be the minimum. The maximum value is the y of the vertex, right? Which is this -3, right? We are good so far? So now you have a max, -1, the axis of symmetry, -3. Our vertex is -3, -1. Is that all good right here? Alright, so then let's look at some points. Let's look at some points. Make sure you can see this. Alright, so in order to do that, we made our t-chart, right? And we started at the x value, which would be -3. And we talked about choosing 2 points greater than -3 and 2 points less than -3. Alright, so we'll do -2, -1, and then we'll do -4, -5. Okay? We know -3 is at -1. Okay? To find these other values, because both of these values are equal distance away from the vertex. -2 is one space away from -3, and -4 is one space away from -3. So technically, both of these values would be the same. And then with these two both being 2 spaces away, these two values would be the same. Okay? So let's do -2. So we'll substitute -2 in for x. So that's -2 squared minus 6 times -2 minus 10. Right? That's going to be your new y. So that's going to be -4 plus 8 minus 10. Alright? We all good so far?
You mean plus 12?
12, yeah. 12. Where'd I get? Okay, I was looking at this 4. Alright, so we all good so far?
Yes, sir.
Alright, -4 plus 12 is
8.
8 minus 10,
-2.
-2. So that's -2. Okay? This will also be -2, right? Because of symmetry. And then let's do the -1. So y equals -1 squared minus 6 times -1 minus 10. Alright? So you're going to get -1 plus 6 minus 10. Alright, -1 plus 6 is 5. Minus 10, -5. Right? So this is -5, and this is -5. Okay? So now we have 5 points that we can graph. Okay? And these are 5 points on our graph when we connect the dots, and then we have our parabola that will be going upside down, actually. Okay? So just to look at it, for instance, we'll have, if we make this like -3, -1, the next point would be -2, which will go over here, and -2. So it'd be down a space, right? This is -4, which is over space, and -2, right? So this is what? -2, -2. Then the next one would be 1, which is over here one more, and down to 5, right? So this would be like -1, -5, right? And then the other one would be -5, which is a space over -5, -5, -5, right? And there's your parabola. Okay? That's how it works. Okay? So again, axis of symmetry is the middle, right? It comes from your vertex.
So you gotta do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, so technically, what we want you to do is like 2 spaces above and 2 spaces below the vertex. You don't know what points to use until you find your vertex.
So it's like 5, then you'll do like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, you could do that. Yes, sir. Number 8. Yeah, I do number 8, but I'm gonna stop right here. All right, so and then we'll do 8 after this. You good? We all good? Is this better?
Yeah.
Yeah? Huh?
Way better.
Way better? All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. MrDoTheMath out.